Hi everyone, we are going to look at an incredible game that just finished between Levon Aronian with white and Alireza Firouzja with black. Let's go, so c4, c6, knight f3, d5, d4, knight f6, knight c3, and players have transposed into the Slav defense. As you know, black would love to play bishop to a5 with the pawn still on d5, but it's not playable because white has cd5, cd5, and now queen to b3, forks both the pawn on b7 and the pawn on d5. So black can either play e6 here, but the bishop will be badly placed on c8, or play bishop to f5, but after giving away the center with d takes c4. So here white cannot really play e4 because then b5, and black keeps their extra pawn on c4. So instead white has to spend tempo playing a4, and now bishop to f5 finally. Here white has two moves. The most natural one is e3, with the simple idea to take the pawn with the bishop. But here Alireza has very good results in this variation. After queen to e2, his pet line is the clever move bishop to g6 to prevent e4. Because now, if white was e4 anyway, after bishop takes c3, the problem is that they cannot take the bishop on f5, so b takes c3 is forced, but now knight takes e4 simply wins the pawn. Anyway, Levon chose the other main line, knight to e5, and white's idea is not really to take the pawn on c4 with the knight, but instead playing the very ambitious f3, e4 and bishop takes c4 plan. For instance, e6 is playable, but after f3, bishop to b4, e4. Here bishop to g6 would be simply losing. Black is positionally busted because of this very bad bishop, and yeah, white has a perfect center. Like, it's just gone for black already. But black can play the powerful piece sacrifice, which led to a very complicated and theoretical battle. But Alireza played the other move, knight to d7, and after this very theoretical move, Alireza played the move that was introduced a long time ago in 2000, before Alireza was born, by the great and creative player Alexander Morozevich. The move is g5, and he played it for the first time against none other than Garry Kasparov, the king himself. And actually it was the only problem with Morozevich's choice, because Kasparov at the chessboard, he found all the best moves for white and managed to win the game despite this powerful novelty. So just like Kasparov, Levon played knight to e3 to counterattack on the bishop on f5, and after g takes f4, knight takes a5. Alireza played just like Morozevich, a long castle, and after queen to c2, here and finally he deviated. He didn't play Morozevich's knight to g4, but instead king to b8, which is a more popular move nowadays. So Levon bravely took the pawn on f4 because it opens the g file, but okay, it's a pawn. So knight to c4 with the idea queen takes, but white simply protects the pawn. But now knight to c5 with a deadly check threatened on d3, but also rook to d2. For instance, castle rook to d2 followed by rook takes b2 would be simply winning for black. So rook to d1 is forced, but after rook takes d1, white has no good way of recapturing. So Levon played knight takes d1, which was played like in every game, but after queen to a5, he played an incredible novelty, and incredibly bad novelty, king to e2, just like in the famous Bongcloud opening, e4, e5, king to e2. And it is as bad as it looks, so yeah, never played king to e2 unless it's winning by force somehow. And he was asked about it after the game, because he blitzed this king e2 move. And he did not really answer. He said, yeah, I thought it was a move, but that's all. But I have a theory. My idea is that he prepared the novelty king takes d1. And after king takes d1, queen to a5 is a bad move. White is winning. And how do they win? With king to e2, and after queen to a6, just like in the game, king to f3. And we will reach the same position in the game, but with the knight on d1 instead. Here it is on c3, and white is much better, if not winning according to the computer. So after king takes d1 novelty, the only move for black to equalize is to play queen to b6. Here the best move is also king to e2, and after queen takes b2, knight takes b2, the material is now equal, and the endgame is just equal as well. So a draw would have been the most likely result by far between such players as Levon and Alireza. Anyway, knight takes d1 was played, and here king to e2 just loses the game basically. But not because of queen takes a4, because here white can take, and after knight takes a4, b3, we simply win a piece. The problem of king to e2 is that black plays queen to a6 first, and white has no choice but to go away from this dangerous diagonal, because for instance queen to c3 could be playable, because here the discovery checks are not really deadly yet. I mean, not at all. For instance, knight takes b2 is just bad, because here we play king to f3, and black loses a piece. And knight to e5 is not working either, because here we play king to d2, and it's the same. Black has too many loose pieces. So instead black plays rook to g8, and now they are winning, because for instance rook to g1 protecting the bishop, black can sack the exchange, and now knight to e5, and the difference is that after king to d2, which is forced, black can play knight to e4, because the bishop is no longer on g2. So yeah, it's forced, because here if king to e1, have you seen it? Checkmate in one move. So after rook to g8, king to f3 is not really playable, because black is just winning because of this poorly placed king on f3, and the cutest win is to play knight to b3. Black wants knight to d2, and after queen takes b3 we play knight to d2 anyway, forking the queen and the king. So queen to c3 doesn't work, so Levon plays the only move, king to f3, but now and only now the pawn is takeable, and because the difference is that after queen takes a4, knight takes a4, b3 will not win a piece, but instead lose a pawn after knight to d2, forking the b3 pawn and the king on f3. So what can white do? They have to take, but here Levon plays a very sad move, king to e2 back, just to get the king into the game. And oh, okay, Alireza took with the c knight, but it will be the same. Knight takes b2, knight takes b2, and rook to b1. And here it might seem that white is winning the pawn on c6, like knight to c4, bishop takes c6, and white is even better. But black has this resource, nice resource, knight to a4, threatening the fork on c3. So white has to spend a tempo playing king to d2, but now black simply plays knight to b6, protecting the pawns. Here Levon played a clever move, bishop to f3. Bishop to e4 looks more natural because it attacks the pawn on h7. And here, for instance, bishop to c5, normal developing move, will be met with knight to h6, and we can see that the bishop is very well placed on e4. The problem with this bishop e4 move is that black plays h5. And here after h4, white really regrets not having the bishop on f3. So that is why Levon played bishop to f3 now. And yeah, here Alireza played bishop to c5, and after knight to h6, black had some practical problems. But here h5 would be met with h4, and we can see the point of playing bishop to f3. Anyway, bishop to c5 was played, knight to h6, threatening the pawn on f7, f6, rook to g1. Yeah, white is very much in a hurry because black pawns will just start rolling. And rook to g1, it's basically to exchange the rooks. It's not about the rooks themselves, it's about being able to attack the pawns. So a5, rook to g8, rook takes g8, knight takes g8, threatening the pawn on f6, a5, only move, king to c2 now, a4, knight to h6, and it looks as though the pawn on f5 will drop. But Alireza found a very nice resource, knight to c4. And here knight takes a5 would just lose immediately, because after a3, black wants a2, and the knight on c4 controls the b2 square. So white is forced to play either king to b3 or king to b1, but after both moves, black forks the king and the bishop with knight to d2 check. So knight takes f5 is impossible. Levon instead played bishop to e2, attacking the knight on c4, but knight to d6 protects the pawn on f5. Levon played bishop to d3, and once more attacking the f5 pawn. But here Alireza had the very nice knight to e4, threatening to take the f2 pawn. Like after knight takes f5, knight takes f2, black is totally winning. So Levon played bishop takes e4, and somehow the f5 pawn managed to survive, for now at least. Levon played knight to g8 with the idea of going to f6 to fork both pawns. And here Alireza played b5. And as you can see, the pawns are on a light square and the bishop is on a dark square. And this is exactly what you want. For instance, here a3 would be just bad because after king to b3, you can see that black regrets having put this pawn on the same color as the bishop. So what you want when you have a bishop and pawns and pass pawn is to have them on the opposite color. So your pawns will control the light squares and the bishop will control the dark squares. So b5 was played, knight to f6, king to c7. Levon took the h7 pawn to create another pass pawn. And Alireza played b4. Now b4 is playable because on the next move he will play b3, check, putting the pawns on the light squares as I explained. So knight to g5, threatening the pawn on e4, b3 check, king to b2, bishop b4. And black wants simply to push, push, push and promote. Knight takes e4 was played. It was move 41, and here and only here Alireza made his only mistake that cost him half a point. The winning line was incredibly complex though, and Levon Aronian after the game he said that he thought at this moment that the position was already drawn, but he was mistaken. Black could win, and I'm going to try my best to explain the very difficult win in the easiest way for you. So the win was to play king to b6, and after a5 play king to b5. Black wants simply to play king to c4 and then a3. King to c4 protects the pawn on b3, and then we can play a3. So white has to rewrite, and knight to c3 is the only move. Now king to c4 would simply lose because the a4 pawn will be lost. So black has to play king to a5. Now f6, and black wants to move the bishop somewhere and play king to b4 next and a3 after that. The problem with bishop f8 is that white can play e4, and after king to b4, a3 is a deadly threat, so white sacrifices the knight, but after king takes a4, e5, white is actually winning. e6, e7 is unstoppable. So instead of bishop f8, black has to play the nice bishop to d6. Now e4 would lose. King to b4, threatening a3, and after knight takes a4, king takes a4, white doesn't have e5. Black could take with check and take on f6 next. So what can white do about it after bishop to d6, threatening king to b4? They have to play knight to e4, attacking the bishop and freeing the square on c3 for the king. So bishop to f8 now, king to c3, preventing king to b4. And yeah, going back to b4 would lead to nothing after king to b2. So black has to play king to b5 first, and now they want bishop to b4 check, and after king b2 play king to c4. For instance, here h4 would lose. After bishop b4 check, king to b2, king c4 is game over, and after king to d3, black can play a3. So instead of h4, black has only one move. White has only one move, knight to d2, with a clever idea. After bishop b2, going king to d3, and now a3 would leave the pawn on b3. So how to win with black in this position? Only one move, bishop to d6. Why to d6? Because black wants king to b4. So white has to play king to c3, but now black has bishop to e5, winning the pawn on f6, and the game. So yeah, it was quite a difficult win to find, even for our 2800 players. So after bishop b4, knight takes e4, instead of this incredible win, Alireza played the maybe more natural and very good looking move c5. But no, it's a draw. It's a draw by force. First, white plays knight to c3, threatening the pawn on a4, forcing the exchange. And after c4, black wants a3, so king to b2 is forced. But it's very easy to think that this position is actually winning for black, despite being down a pawn. Black pawns are much more advanced and dangerous than white. So Alireza played king to d6, and for instance here h4 would be losing, not because of king to e6 going towards the pawns, but king to c5 going towards black pawns. And after, let's say, f5, king to b4. Okay, now the pawn is unstoppable, but we don't care because we will give checkmate. For instance, f6, a3 check, king to c1, a2, king to b2, c3, king to a1, king to a3, and after f7, b2 is checkmate. So, yeah, white has no time for h4, they have to play f5. And now king to c5 would lose the game. After f6, king to b4, f7, a3, the same variation, king to c1. We can see the problem. The white is going to promote with check. So after f5, king to e5 is forced. And now, very natural move, e4, protecting the pawn, would lose the game after king to d4, allowing white to play f6, which seems dangerous, but black has c3, and after king to a3, it's very easy to see that c2 and black is going to promote with check. And after, let's say, king to b1, we play a3, and after f7, king to d3, and after f8 queen, we play c2. And king to c1 is bet by b2 checkmate. What a nice checkmate it is. So yeah, e4 is losing. How to draw? Maybe h4 is a move, but then no, king to e4 and it's more or less the same. f6, king to d3, f7, c3 check. Here king to c1 is losing, as we just saw. a3, f8, queen, let's say b2, king to b1, c2, and okay, it's we promote both pawns with check. So yeah, all these variations are losing, but after king to d3, f7, c3, king to a3 now looks quite good for white, but black has c2, f8, queen, so white promotes first, but we give a check, and after king takes a4, b2, we would reach the same, more or less same position as in the game, but unfortunately for white, they are lost here because of their extra pawns. If the pawns were gone, white would be able to give many checks and to draw with a perpetual. Here, black's king managed to hide behind the white pawns. For instance, queen to f5 check, king to e2, queen to g4 check, king to f1, queen to h3 check only move, king to e1 now, queen to h1 only check, and king to e2. And yeah, white has no check. And we can see that if only one of these pawns were missing, white could draw. Like without the pawn on e3, queen to e4 would draw. Without the pawn on f2, queen to h2 would draw. Without the pawn on h4, queen to h5 would draw. But here they can resign. So instead of all this, after king to e5, Levon played the only good move, pawn to f3. King takes a5 and now h4, and this position is incredible. With black to move, as it is in the game, this position is a draw, but with white to move, it would be a win for black. And you know, it's unbelievable, but today, just a couple of hours before the game, I looked at this position, which is the end of a study by Nikolai Grigoriev. Why? Okay, so this was the study. White to play on win, and okay, let's not waste more time. Here, white is winning because it's black to move and it's a mutual Zugzwang. With white to move, it would be winning for black. So why did I look at Grigoriev studies? Because very sad news, Yuri Averbach, the oldest grandmaster, just passed away at 100 years old, and Averbach fell in love with chess watching Grigoriev giving a lecture about his studies, maybe including this one. So I selected a few studies to write an article and do a video in the future, and I did not include this one because I thought, well, it's not game-like, you know, it can only happen in a study. And so, like, just before the games, I had this position in front of my eyes, and this is the position that the player got in the game. It's like the same, basically. Both are mutual Zugzwang. It's incredible. Anyway, with white to move, it would be losing for white, as I just said. For instance, let's give the move to white like this. After h5, it's easy to see that king to g5 is a problem. After f4, black has king to e4, and let's say h3, king to d3, and black is winning. h6, c3, and it will be one of the wins that we just saw. For instance, king to c2, a3, let's say a3, a2, okay, a2, a1 is winning. So that is not very difficult. And after king to b1, okay, the easiest is king to d2, c2, c1, queen. Checkmate. So f4 is losing, and so is e4 because it weakens the square on d4. Let's say king to e5, h5, king to d4, h6, c3, and it's the same. But unfortunately for Alireza, it was his move after king to e5, f3, double X slam, king takes a5, h4, double X slam. It's black to move, and so the position is a draw because king to e5, now h5. The king has to move to f4, threatening king to g5, but now f4, preventing king to g5. But okay, it gives this square, so black plays king to e4, and now it's a race. h6, king to d3, h7, c3 check, king to a3. Only moves for white. Every move is an only move. c2, h8, queen, white queens first, but c1, queen with check, king takes a4. Very important. Queen to b2 will be losing because black can take, and after king takes b2, of course not king takes e3 because here white wins, and not king to e4 because then it's just a draw. There is nothing black can do. Here black plays the very nice king to c4, and after a5 they play king to b4, and after f6 they play a3, and after king b1, king to c1, f7. It looks very, very dangerous, but black has everything under control. a2, king to a1, b2 check, king takes a2, king to c2, f8 queen, white is up a pawn, but black gives checkmate in 2 moves. So yeah, queen to b2 was losing, but Levon had seen everything, and he played king takes a4. b2 was played, and here the problem is not queen to d4, because here like king to e2 wins the game instantly. White has no more checks. There is only one move to draw, queen to h7, and the problem is that the pawn on h4 is now missing, so after king to e2, white can give a check on h2. So Alireza took the pawn on e3 first, and after this check he took the other pawn. But here black has a nice idea actually, to bring the king to b6, and it looks very dangerous for white now, because queen to f6 check is met by queen to c6 counter check, and black wins. White has to take, and black promotes on the next move. But here Levon played the perfect move to end this amazing game. Queen takes b2 check, giving the queen to stalemate. Wow, what an amazing game. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please press the like button, and do not hesitate to share it on the social media. I wish you a very nice day. See you soon. Ciao.